Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about this insane new poll coming out of a state that we typically don't talk about in presidential elections, that being Alaska. So the Alaska Survey Research, which is a high-rated pollster, it's the best pollster based in Alaska. Now they polled the state of Alaska among about 1,200 likely voters. They asked the question, of course, who do you plan on voting for? Donald Trump won the result of this poll, but he's only at 47%. I'm not quite sure what the parentheses mean. 47% we'll call it. To Kamala Harris is 42%. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is 5%. And 6% are undecided. So what that means, yes, you read that right. Donald Trump is only up on Kamala Harris by 5%. Just a measly 5 percentage points ahead in Alaska. Alaska, a deeply Republican state, a traditionally Republican state. And yes, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being in the poll is important because he will stay on the Alaska ballot. He has not withdrawn his name from the Alaska ballot because I guess he figured that it wasn't a swing state. But now Alaska is looking competitive after the debate. I'll mind you, this is after that presidential debate. You could see the next question they asked was, did you watch or listen to the debate? 67% said yes. And who do you think won the debate if you did? 52% said Harris won. 29% said Trump won. 19% said it was a draw. So clearly, Kamala Harris, the clear winner of the debate according to Alaska voters. Now again, Donald Trump is only up by 5 points. Now if you don't know, Alaska is a deeply Republican state. And it started to break in 2020. That became apparent that Alaska was starting to become a state that we really needed to talk about more, in the future elections, maybe a decade or two down the road. But this quick, I wasn't expecting it to be talking about the state of Alaska, this quick, just 4 years after the 2020 election, and to see such a tremendous shift towards the Democrats even since 2020. But in 2020, Donald Trump won the state by 10.1%. Again, today, he stands at 5% in this Alaska research poll. That is insane. I mean, going back in history, too, in 2016, he won it by almost 15%. And then before that, Romney won it by 14%. McCain won it by 21%. Bush won it by 25%. I don't even know if it went to a Democrat any time in this list. No, it did not. Oh, of course, 1964, it did. So Alaska's not gone blue since the election of 1964. And I don't think that Kamala Harris will win in Alaska, but it just goes to show how this is a traditionally Republican state. This is a, something that is passed down through families. This is, just a historically Republican state. I mean, the last time it even got as close as a 5-point margin might have been 1968 with Richard Nixon. I'm trying to look through here. But I mean, 5% is not a lot. Yeah, the last time it even got within 5% was in 1968. That is just absolutely insane to look at. So it raises the question, will this happen? We have to look at this poll to see if it is accurate, because we have had other polls, not from Alaska Survey Research, and they did not show a close race. There was an internal Republican poll that showed Trump up by 10, but that's not very good for an internal Republican poll. I mean, these are the polls that they show to donors, to say that whatever, we're ahead in this race, we need your money, whatever, we're going to win. And Nick Begich is behind, so I won't go into it. But this is, of course, by far the closest race, the closest race we have seen in Alaska since the beginning of these polls. No race has shown a 5-point win. But in 2022, this is important. Alaska Survey Research was not a pollster in the 2020 election. We can look, actually, I can show you. And when you look at all the polls from 2020, as you can see on the left-hand side here, they were expecting a 7.7% win for Donald Trump. He only ended up winning it by 10.10, or he won it by 10.10, which is more than he was expected to do. But you see that Alaska Survey Research was not, they did not conduct a single poll. One. Okay, well, not good. But it, was one, and it was months before the election. But in 2022, they really had their year when they polled the United States House of Representatives election. Of course, Alaska has an at-large election. They have a special election, whatever. But we're just going to be looking at the November general election. Now, Alaska uses ranked choice voting, by the way, so this will get a little confusing. But they polled the first round, Mary Peltola, who was the representative then after winning a special election. The Democrat, yes, Alaska has a Democratic representative, if you didn't know. But they polled the first round. They said Peltola would win 49, 26, 21 for Nick Begich, 5% for Libertarian, I think that is. So what is that? That's a 23% win they projected in 2022 in their final poll in October for Mary Peltola, 23%. Now look at the first round results. 48 to 27. That's a 23.1% victory for Mary Peltola in the first round. Guys, they got it spot on. They were 0.1% away from getting, I don't know what the decimal places were. They got it spot on, right? We can just say that. They got it spot on in the first round. Now, in the final round, let's see. We'll skip this one and look at the final round. So, of course, ranked choice voting. It eliminates the candidates who received the least amount of votes. So then you're down to two, Mary Peltola and Sarah Palin. They were the finalists. They projected Mary Peltola would win by 13%. She ended up winning by 10%. They were 3% off, almost right there, almost spot on. An incredibly accurate pollster in 2022, and really the only one that got it right? Alaska is a difficult state to poll. Very rural, we don't know who's turning out to vote. It's much more difficult than some of the other continental United States. We see that Dittman research had Mary Peltola winning by, that's 3% over Nick Begich, but you can see plus 15 for Mary Peltola. You can see a lot of them were against Nick Begich. Plus 23 for Mary Peltola in that's the second round. I don't know, but it is. Not a lot of polls were right in Alaska in 2022. It was a huge shock in that special election when Mary Peltola won, because so many pollsters missed it. But you can see here, Alaska Survey research. This is a good one. This is one you have to watch. More national polling corporations like the New York Times or Siena College, Marist, whatever, Emerson, Quinnipiac, whatever it may be, they have trouble in Alaska. But the actual Alaska-based pollster, Alaska Survey Research, they proved in 2022 that they know what to do. They are good at polling their state. And if this holds true, this would just be incredible. This would be just shocking and really good for the Kamala Harris campaign. That's exactly what they want to see. It would be going from 10.1 to 5 in 4 years. That's a 5-point shift. If that happened nationwide, a 5-point shift from 2020. Biden already won in 2020. He won 306 to 232. So just imagine what could have been the map if it went 5 points better for Joe Biden in 2020. It would have been a landslide. Let's map it out to see. You'd have states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, and Nevada. Those would all be, pretty well into that likely margin territory. And then you had really close states like Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia that are only becoming more Democratic. All of those would become likely margin states as well. Remember, a likely margin state is a state with a 5% to 15% margin for the respective candidate. So, of course, if in all these states that Biden won, they would automatically become likely states just like that. And then you have North Carolina. North Carolina only voted for Trump by a point. That's now going to Harris by just an unbelievable 4% if this did hold up and it happened nationwide. You've got Florida. They voted for Trump by 3.4. Harris would take the win in Florida by about 1.5 points. That would just be an insane result. It would be a landslide. Texas would be reduced to a tilt margin for Trump. he won it by 5.6, it would be reduced to just 0.6, a tilt margin. And then you have some states we never talk about. Of course, Alaska goes from 10 to 5 if we're talking about this poll. Let's put it at a lean margin. Or no, it'd be likely. And then you've got, North Carolina. North Carolina only voted for Trump by 11.7. That would become a 6.7 plus Republican state for Trump. That's almost a lean state. Ohio would go to a 3-point margin for Trump. Iowa would go to a 3.2% margin for Trump. Those are incredibly close margins. Harris would be actually competitive in these states, which is hard to believe. Of course, you've got states like Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, New Mexico. Some of them would become safe, some of them wouldn't, just for the purposes of this video. I just, threw them into that safe characterization. But, it wouldn't even be a close election at all. We see, just with this map, Harris and Tim Walz win 349 electoral votes. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance win 189. Again, not close at all. Harris wins almost double the amount of electoral votes that Donald Trump gets. I mean, just imagine if something like that would happen. The repercussions for elections in decades to come would be influenced by this stunning landslide that nobody expected. So this is a major poll, because if it holds true, then we could be looking at a very different race. I mean, if we just knew, imagine, of course this isn't true, but just imagine if we knew this poll would be accurate, that this would be, spot on, that Trump would win the state of Alaska by 5%. With that knowledge, if we did know, confirmed, but if some god came down and told us, or someone from the future, then we would be talking about a very different race. Because if Alaska is going to Trump by 5 when it went to him by 10 in 2016, in 2020, and then 15 in 2016, or 14 or 15, then we're talking about a completely different race. And even more, moving past 2024, specifically on Alaska. I mean, again, as I just said, going from 15 to 10 in one election in 4 years, that is one thing. That's major. And then going from 15 to 10 to 5 in the next, then we're talking about Alaska being just about 50-50, a complete swing state in 2028, and then leaning Democratic. Now, of course, that trend won't hold up. And then leaning Democratic in the 2032 election. So I do think that it really won't take that much time for Alaska to turn blue. I think in a decade or so, with a right Democratic nominee, Alaska could vote Democratic on the presidential level. That is just my prediction. That could be another, it's small, 3 electoral votes, but it could matter, of course, in a very close election. So that's something to keep our eye out for. Of course, they have a Democratic representative, so of course it is true that, these are very nonpartisan, very independent-minded voters. Even though they are Republicans, they are willing to vote for the other side. And if you have that mixed with more liberal-minded Democrats moving to the state, then, or, even just the people living in the state really becoming liberal-minded, you being traditionally conservative, right, being brought up conservative, changing their political minds, becoming more and more like a Democrat, then, it could spell disaster for the Alaska Republican Party. So, just an insane poll coming from Alaska. So, thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe down below. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible, and we are so close. So, please help me out with that. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.